Hello everyone! Now, I know I haven't done any lately as I was playing, another game. This one, Darksiders. Now, I've decided to make this review because first, I'm a huge fan of Darksiders. I was a great fan of the previous games. I'm a great fan of Joe Mad, who's the comiker behind these games, and I love the art, I love the universe, and I've played Darksiders 1 and 2 and I simply love her. Full of fun, great exploration, and a lot of great content for someone who just wants to have a fun time, for how much time they want. Those are not big games, but they're like a clash between Zelda and God of War. But a little bit shorter, but yeah, those are the games. And I simply love those games. And then when I heard they were making a new Darksiders 3, I was all excited. I was like, yes, yes. For those of you who don't know, Darksiders series or the Darksiders games, they were thought to be a co-op game, but since they didn't have the budget back on Vigil Games, where the first Darksiders were made, they decided to make a one-off. First they started with War, then they made Death, and now THQ and Gunfire Games decided to make a third one, which is really cool because that means there may be a fourth, and maybe on the last one they will make finally the co-op that everybody was waiting. Since Darksiders Genesis is coming out in about 1 to 2 months on PlayStation 4, we get a new addition to Darksiders, so let's see where this is going. But enough of Darksiders. I just wanted to begin by saying I really love the franchise. Now, Darksiders 3 is a little bit different than Darksiders 1 and 2. First of all, it features the only female character of the brothers, which is Fury. And instead of using a sword or a scythe or a gun like her brothers, she uses a whip, which is kind of cool. And if you've played Castlevania Lore of Shadows, they have a pretty cool whip mechanic in those games, which I played and I really like it, and I was expecting some of the same here. Well, it was somehow different, but it's still very cool. The game is basically the same as the old Darksiders, but it's a little bit smaller. This is like 50 to 60% of the other games, even less than that. It's a really small game, but it has the same mechanics. You fight NPCs, you have to transverse to some exploration, you have puzzles, and then you gain powers, and with those powers you can go back to old areas that you already been, and you can unlock new areas. So that's all well and good, and it works pretty well for the most part, so you already know what you're getting. Now, the base battle of the game and the game itself have bosses which you have to encounter. Those are the 7 sins, and you have to get all 7 to complete the game. Now, the first thing I noticed about the game is the combat mechanics are different than Darksiders 1 and 2. And Darksiders 1 and 2, you basically were like this Hulk, this berserker of a man, and you just transverse to everything. As long as you had the right weapon or the right power to the right enemy, you can pretty much kill everything normally. Now in this game you have to use dodge. Now I don't know how you feel about dodge in games. I feel dodge is somewhat of a mechanic that I don't really feel should be in action games, unless it's like a dash to attack someone, and I rather use the parry system, which is you defend and all the enemies that are attacking you, you don't get hit by them. You simply stay in defense mode, and then when he makes an attack or something you can jump or then defend. Now here the only thing you have against enemies is dodging, and now dodging has to be done precisely at the keyframe that they're attacking. Now this becomes a bit of a problem for 2 reasons. The first reason is the camera isn't always in the best position when you're trying to dodge, which is if you have more than 2 enemies against you, the camera doesn't focus back, or doesn't travel back, so you can see all the enemies and you know what you're doing. Instead, it stays really close to you and you can't see the enemies around you. Now if you're trying to dodge attacks that are coming from behind or from the side, you can't see them, so you just get hit. The second reason is the dodge system has to be done perfectly, and you can't see the preempt movement of the enemy. And sometimes preemptive movement can mean one hit, and it can mean 2 or 3. Sometimes there's no preemptive movement, so you don't know if they're going to attack or not, or which kind of attack they're doing. So most time you're either guessing or just staying away and dodging every single time to get an attack. This is a problem because I was used to having Darksiders just smashing through everything, and you know, changing weapon. If a guy uses a shield, I change to the weapon that breaks the shield, and I break the shield and I would kill him. Here, one of the powers that you get is a hammer, and if you try to break the a shield with that hammer, you can't break it. It simply opens up the enemy opens up a way to kill him, but it doesn't break his shield. So it doesn't really matter which one you're using against what NPC, because in the end you'd always have to rely on your dodge and your opening for attacks. So that's not exactly a great way to traverse the universe. I have to say, I played this game on story mode and I got killed. Not a lot, but sometimes. So, and when you get new powers, you think, okay, so I'm going to use this power against this NPC, and it doesn't really do anything. You know, a new power is just a new way to traverse the areas or to do exploration. They're not exactly thought to specific enemies. So, you know, you're not getting that overpower feeling that you used to have. So when you have weapons that don't really do anything to NPCs, if you use the same weapon all the time, or if you use the same power all the time, it doesn't really do anything, but then you have to change back because you want to traverse this. Now this was another problem. This was one of the problems I had in the game. The other one was some of the puzzles. Some of the puzzles, you know, most times in Darksiders, the puzzles work as much on puzzles as Zelda. As soon as you know how to figure them out, they're pretty easy. But here it doesn't work exactly that way. I had one puzzle that I was able to work around it, not doing the puzzle itself, but doing another exploration and coming to the next area another way. So that's not exactly how a puzzle should be. The other thing is, some puzzles rely heavily on skill, so you have to do certain things in a certain timing or the puzzle doesn't work. And the game itself isn't allowing you to get through that puzzle quickly. One example was, I knew I had to set a rock on a certain place and then run through the door so it could open, and I tried it multiple times and it simply didn't work. I tried it with other powers to see maybe if the power changes, the speed of the character changes, or the speed of fury changes, and it didn't happen. So I was left figuring out how am I going to do this. So I did what the puzzle didn't do, that wasn't allowing me to. I simply went around it and got to the other area, and that's exactly how puzzles should be. Other times was I had salvation, which is a scythe that you can throw, and I had to throw it at a specific time at specific things, but sometimes the aiming system wouldn't work, or it's just simply shut off when and I was frustrated because I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't getting enough feedback from the controls to make it quick or make it exactly like it was. The controls themselves are not as good as Darksiders 1 and 2. The camera, I have said before, on the camera that doesn't work on the combat system sometimes fails on the puzzle systems as well. So those are not very good. Another thing that the game has is that you can upgrade your own powers. You can upgrade your whips or your enhancements to the whips, or you can upgrade your armor, or you can upgrade your health, your strength, or your arcane that improves somewhat your dodge. Now these take a large amounts of souls that you can gather on the game, or you can find items that you can exchange with Volgrim, which is the character that gives you your powers or abilities or something. And the problem is you don't actually feel them during the game. Unless you're a level 20 on any of those powers, you may get a sense that you're improving, but for the rest of it, not too much. I'm already at level 55, and to be honest, I don't feel like I'm at power 55. I feel like I'm about 20-25 at power, because on some difficulties, and this is a big question that I didn't like on Darksiders, is you can increase the level of difficulty because you're more powerful, or you feel that you have enough weapons and enough power to take on difficulty levels, but then you have some characters, some NPCs there in Armageddon that can one-shot kill you. So you're taking care of a dozen, not a dozen because there's not a dozen enemies on screen at the time, but like 2 or 3 guys, and then comes another character that simply one-hits you and kills you. And you can't see it because the camera isn't there, and you can't lock on it because it doesn't give you any kind of warning, so you're just dying for the sake of dying, and that's not really cool. Well, this might seem like I'm criticizing the game a lot, but that's because these are the only flaws that I saw in the game. The game in itself, it's really cool game. It only takes place on Earth. The other games took place on the Kingdom of Heaven and the Kingdom of Hell, and a lot more demons and a lot diversified boss fights. Here, the bosses, which is something I don't really particularly appreciate in most games, are the easiest part of the game. As long as you can transverse to them, then you can pretty much kill them any way you want, as long as you have enough health or strength to do it. So it's a kind of a feeling that when you get to the boss, you're actually relaxed when you get to it. You don't feel like, ah, finally I'm going to get to the boss. No, it's like, I've already got the boss, I have enough strength, because then there in the boss fights the cameras do work because you only have one boss, and it's easy to lock on him and do exactly what you have to do. Some boss fights are not as easy as others, but most of the boss fights are simply, you simply hit them with everything you got, and you have to have that meticulous dodge on some points, which I really didn't appreciate, because as soon as you miss a dodge, you get hit, and then you try to dodge after that, and you get hit again because you're not timing it correctly. And for a hack and slash game that I was used to on Darksiders 1 and 2, this wasn't hack and slash. This was more meticulous, more Born-like, or more Laws of Fallen, if you'd like. Now, I still enjoyed the game, but I didn't love the game. That was something I struggled with, because I really liked the universe and the Darksiders game, but I didn't love the game at the end. Like I said, if they changed the dodge system to a parry system and maybe work the camera a little bit more, the game would be more hack and slash, more follow through, more overkill, and I would have enjoyed it more, because that was the feeling that I got on Darksiders 1 and 2. Here, because the system was different and some of the puzzles were really frustrating to get through, not because I didn't know what to do, but because the camera or the controls or something didn't work quite as well as it should, like in a Zelda. It's all I can say. In the end, it's a good game, but not a great game. So I hope you take that into account. If you're a Darksiders fan, you should really try it, because it gets a new addition to the story. If you're not a Darksiders fan, unless you're a Born's Lords of Fallen guy, I really think you should, take your pace on the game and see what's what. And then in the end, if you really find the game enjoyable, then it's your game. If I had to give a classification to this game, giving the background that I did, I would give it between 7.5 in 10, which I think is really good, because I really think it's a good game, but I don't think it's a great game. And I think some people might get misleading if they're a Darksiders fan, or frustrated if they're expecting some sort of exploration exploration action RPG, and they get this some kind of combat system that they really aren't feeling it. And that's it. That's all for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next video.